Sophie, I want to start with a number today, a number that I think is going to surprise almost everyone listening.
Okay, hit me.
Roughly 80% of English conversations happening in the world right now, today, are happening between non-native speakers.
80%?
80%. There are roughly 1.5 billion English speakers in the world, and only about 400 million of them are native speakers. The other 1.1 billion are people who learned English, and when they speak English, they mostly speak it with other learners, not with natives.
Stop. This is huge because almost every English learner believes the opposite. They believe that the goal is to speak English with native speakers, that native conversation is the gold standard, that practicing with other learners is somehow second best or even a waste of time.
And it's a myth, a widespread, deeply held, completely wrong myth. The truth is that for most learners, most of the time, English is going to be used with other non-native speakers. The Indian engineer talking to the German project manager, the Brazilian doctor consulting with the Korean researcher, the Polish freelancer working with the Egyptian client. None of them are native speakers. All of them are using English fluently.
And almost none of them are using native English. They're using a global English, a shared, flexible, communicative English, which is the English that actually runs the world.
And here's the painful part. Most learners spend years feeling guilty that they don't have native speaker friends to practice with, feeling like their practice is incomplete, feeling like their real growth can only happen with someone born into English. And so they wait, they don't practice, they pay for expensive native tutors, they delay their progress because the right kind of practice feels unavailable.
When the truth is, the practice that's actually most aligned with how they'll use English in real life is sitting right there. Other learners, other non-native speakers, people in their exact situation who are also working on their English.
And today, we're going to explode this myth completely. We're going to show you why non-native practice is not second best. In many ways, it's actually first best, especially for fluency, anxiety reduction, and real-world communication stamina.
So, welcome to Side by Side English Podcasts. I'm Sophie.
I'm Mark. Today is for the B2 or C1 learner who has been waiting to find native speakers to practice with, who feels stuck because they don't live in an English-speaking country, who thinks they need expensive native tutors to make real progress. We're going to give you permission to start practicing immediately with other learners, and to know that this practice is exactly what your fluency needs.
Stay with us. We have the native speaker myth fully explained, the 3 specific advantages of practicing with non-natives, why anxiety drops by 80% when the conversation partner is also a learner, the strategy for finding good non-native practice partners, a role play showing 2 non-natives building fluency together, and a word tour with 6 powerful B2 to C1 words.
Quick comment question before we begin. Be honest, have you been waiting to practice English until you find native speakers? Drop a yes or no. We want to see how many learners are caught in this trap. Okay, let's redefine practice.
So, Mark, let's start by being clear about what the native speaker myth actually says, because we want to be precise about what we're disagreeing with.
Yes, the myth has 3 parts. Part 1, the only real fluency comes from speaking with natives. Part 2, speaking with other learners reinforces their mistakes onto you. Part 3, native speakers are the only ones who can give you authentic English.
And every single one of these is either wrong or wildly exaggerated.
Let's go through them. Myth Part 1, only natives produce real fluency.
Wrong. Fluency is not built by whom you talk to. It is built by how much you talk. The brain doesn't care who is sitting across from you. The brain cares about reps. Hours of speech production, hours of listening, hours of real-time communication under pressure. And those reps can come from any human being who speaks English back to you.
And the key here is that a learner who has 30 hours of conversation per month with other non-native speakers is going to build more fluency than a learner who has 10 hours of high-anxiety conversation with a native tutor. The volume matters more than the source.
Myth Part 2. Other learners' mistakes will infect you.
This one is interesting because there is a tiny grain of truth in it, but it gets blown massively out of proportion. Yes, if you only ever speak with one learner who makes a specific, consistent mistake, you might pick up that mistake occasionally. But this is rare. Why? Because you also consume English content from native sources. You read English, you watch English shows, you listen to podcasts.
So your input is mixed, your speech production is mixed. The errors of one practice partner cannot overwrite the patterns you absorb from hundreds of hours of native content.
Exactly. Most B2 and C1 learners are consuming far more English than they're producing, so their reference for what English sounds like comes from their input, not from their speaking partner. The partner is for speaking practice, the native content is for input. The two work together.
Myth part 3. Only natives have authentic English.
And this one is the most cultural and the most outdated. The idea of authentic English as something owned by native speakers belongs to a previous era, the era when English was learned mostly to talk to people in England or America. That era is over.
Today, English is a global language. The English used in international business, science, technology, diplomacy, online communication is a kind of English that has been shaped by all 1.5 billion of its speakers, not just the 400 million natives.
And the most authentic version of English for most learners is not the English of a particular country. It's the English they'll actually use, which means English with people from many different backgrounds, often non-native, often with diverse accents, often flexible and adaptive in a way that pure native English isn't.
So the practice that prepares you for that real-world English is the practice with other non-native speakers, not the practice with one specific native.
3 myths, all exposed, and once you stop believing them, the entire landscape of practice opens up. Suddenly, there are millions of potential practice partners available to you, free or affordable, eager to practice, willing to meet you halfway, living all over the world.
And the access problem dissolves. Practice is no longer a luxury, it is a daily option.
Let's actually break down the 3 specific advantages of practicing with non-natives, because I want learners to understand that this isn't just settling for second best. Non-native practice has real, measurable, specific advantages that native practice doesn't.
Yes, 3 advantages.
Advantage 1, dramatically lower anxiety.
This is the biggest one. When you speak with a native speaker, especially as a B2 learner, there's a kind of social pressure that's hard to escape. The other person is fluent. You are not. You feel watched. You feel evaluated. The conversation is asymmetric, and that asymmetry creates fear.
When you speak with another learner, the pressure drops by 80% or more because you both know you're in the same situation. You both know you make mistakes. You both know what it's like to forget a word mid-sentence. You're partners in the same struggle.
And anxiety, as we covered in the effective filter episode, is the single biggest blocker of fluency. When anxiety drops, fluency rises. So the lower pressure environment of non-native practice is literally giving your speech better conditions to develop.
And this is the irony. A learner who has 30 hours of low-anxiety conversations per month produces more growth than a learner who has 10 hours of high-anxiety conversations per month, because the low-anxiety state lets the speaking brain function at its best. Advantage 2, real-world communication training. This is the one almost no one talks about. When you speak English with other non-natives, you are practicing the exact kind of communication you'll use in real life, with accents that aren't native, with different speeds, with different vocabulary preferences, with cultural patterns that aren't North American or British.
And this builds something that pure native practice cannot build, the ability to communicate flexibly with anyone in the world, to negotiate meaning when accents are unfamiliar, to repair conversations when something gets lost, to stretch your English to fit the person in front of you.
And this skill is the most useful real-world skill in English, because in your future, in business, travel, work, the people you talk to in English will be from all over the world, and the skill of communicating across non-native accents is what will actually pay off.
Pure native practice doesn't build this skill. Pure native practice only prepares you for one accent, one cultural background, one way of speaking, which is fine if your only goal is to live in England or America. But for the global world that most learners actually live in, it's incomplete.
Advantage 3. Communicative stamina under realistic pressure.
What do you mean by stamina here?
Speaking English in a non-native conversation is mentally tiring because you have to work to understand the other person's accent. You have to be patient with their searching for words. You have to repair misunderstandings sometimes. You have to confirm meanings. You have to slow down when needed.
And all of that is actual fluency work. It's not extra. It's the exact work that real-world English requires. So a non-native conversation is essentially a fluency workout, with all the muscles being trained simultaneously.
A native conversation, on the other hand, often does less of this work because the native speaker carries most of the linguistic load. They adjust to you. They figure out what you meant. They smooth over your mistakes silently, which feels nice but produces less growth.
Non-native conversations have higher communicative friction, and friction in this case is exactly what builds the muscle, the communicative stamina that prepares you for any English situation.
3 advantages: lower anxiety, real-world training, communicative stamina. Every one of them is a real, measurable, specific benefit that native practice doesn't provide as well.
And once learners see these benefits clearly, they stop apologizing for non-native practice. They start to see it as the primary practice, with native practice as a useful supplement, not the gold standard.
Let's give the audience a practical strategy because the principle is clear, but how do you actually find good non-native practice partners?
Yes, 3 strategies for finding the right kind of practice.
Strategy 1. Language exchange platforms.
Apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, Speaky, and others are full of learners around the world looking for English practice. Most of them are not natives. Most of them are B1 to C1 learners just like you. And finding 1 or 2 consistent partners on these platforms can transform your practice.
The key is consistency. Don't try to talk to a different person every week. Find 1 or 2 partners and meet with them regularly, 20 or 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week. The repetition builds momentum, the familiarity builds comfort, and comfort builds fluency.
Strategy 2. Conversation groups.
Online groups, local meetups, language clubs, communities of learners meeting deliberately to practice. These are everywhere. Online via Discord and Zoom, offline in major cities. And they offer something one-on-one practice doesn't: variety of speakers, multiple accents, group dynamics, which builds real-world communication skills faster than solo practice.
Strategy 3. Convert your existing relationships.
This one is huge and almost no one thinks of it. Look at your current friends, family, colleagues. Are any of them also learning English or already speaking some English, even if not natively? Could you ask one of them to speak English with you for 30 minutes a week?
A coworker, a cousin, a friend, someone you already know and trust. Speaking English with them adds practice to your existing life without requiring new platforms or new people. And the existing trust means the anxiety is even lower than with a stranger.
And this is one of the most underused practice resources in language learning. Learners think they need to find professional partners when often there's someone in their daily life who would gladly practice with them.
3 strategies: apps, groups, existing relationships. Use one, use all 3, and practice access stops being a problem forever.
Okay, let's do a role play so learners can hear what good non-native practice actually sounds like.
Yes, set it up.
Imagine 2 B2 learners, one from Brazil, one from Poland. They've been practice partners for 3 months, meeting twice a week on Zoom, and they're having one of their regular conversations.
Okay, let me play the Brazilian speaker. You play the Polish speaker.
Deal.
So, how was your week? Anything interesting happen?
Actually, yes, I had a really tough meeting at work. My manager's from India, and his accent is, how can I say, very different from what I'm used to. I had to ask him to repeat things twice. It was a little embarrassing.
Oh, I had the same situation last month. My new client is from Singapore, and the first call, I understood maybe half of what he said. But after a few calls, my ear adjusted.
Yeah, this is what I'm hoping, that after some weeks his accent will become familiar to me, but in the meantime, it's tiring.
That's the word, tiring. I want to say also that I learned a new phrase last week, to wing it. Do you know this one?
No, what does it mean?
It means to do something without preparation. Like, my boss asked me to give a presentation and I had no time to prepare, so I just had to wing it. I really wanted to use it in our conversation today.
Oh, that's a great phrase, to wing it. I will try to use it this week.
And listen to what just happened in that exchange. Two B2 learners, neither native, and what did we do? We shared real experiences, we helped each other with new vocabulary, we validated each other's struggles, we practiced communicative repair when Mark's character mentioned his Indian manager's accent, and we built warm, low-anxiety speaking practice for 30 minutes, 3 times a week.
That conversation repeated for 3 months builds more fluency than a few expensive native tutoring sessions per month. Not because the partners are perfect,
Because they're consistent, they're frequent, they're low anxiety, and they cover the exact kind of real-world communication the learners will use later.
and both speakers walked away having practiced everything that matters: speed, listening to a non-native accent, adapting their English, negotiating meaning, learning new phrases, sharing real experiences.
This is what good non-native practice looks like. And once a learner has even one non-native partner like this, their fluency journey accelerates dramatically.
Word tour? Word tour.
First word, asymmetric. Asymmetric means unequal, unbalanced, one side being different from the other. A native to learn a conversation is asymmetric. Both speakers are not on the same level, and that imbalance shapes the entire dynamic of the conversation.
For example, one reason native conversations create anxiety is that they are deeply asymmetric, with one speaker fluent and the other still learning. Repeat, asymmetric.
Asymmetric.
Next, to repair. In linguistics, to repair a conversation means to fix a moment of misunderstanding or miscommunication. Native speakers repair conversations all the time without thinking. Non-native conversations require more repair, which is exactly why they build communication skills.
For example, practicing with non-natives gives you many opportunities to repair conversations, which is one of the most useful real-world communication skills in English. Repeat, repair.
Repair. Next, reciprocal. Reciprocal means mutual, given and received equally. A reciprocal practice arrangement is one where both partners benefit equally, and the best language exchange relationships are deeply reciprocal.
For example, the best practice partnerships are reciprocal, with both speakers helping each other grow in their target language. Repeat, reciprocal.
Reciprocal. Next, stamina. We've used this word before, but it deserves another spotlight here. Communication stamina is the ability to sustain English conversation over long periods without exhaustion, and non-native practice builds the stamina faster than native practice.
For example, talking with non-native speakers builds communication stamina because both parties have to work harder to keep the conversation flowing smoothly. Repeat, stamina.
Stamina. Next, to accommodate. To accommodate someone means to adjust your behavior to make space for theirs, to meet them where they are. Native speakers often accommodate non-natives without thinking, but learning to accommodate other learners is a skill in itself.
For example, non-native conversations teach you to accommodate different accents, different speeds, and different ways of expressing ideas, which is exactly the skill that makes you a strong communicator in the global world. Repeat, accommodate.
Accommodate. And finally, validation. Validation is the act of acknowledging someone else's experience as real and understandable. It is a key part of healthy human connection. And in non-native practice partnerships, mutual validation is one of the most powerful psychological benefits.
For example, one of the great gifts of practicing with other learners is the validation that comes from someone who truly understands the struggle because they live it too. Repeat, validation.
Validation. 6 words today: asymmetric, repair, reciprocal, stamina, accommodate, and validation. Every one of these is a real, useful modern English word that captures something specific about communication and learning.
And they are the kinds of words you'll hear in conversations about relationships, learning, work dynamics, and personal growth.
Sophie, one final takeaway for everyone watching.
That the native speaker myth has been costing learners years of unnecessary delay. The belief that real practice can only happen with natives keeps people stuck, waiting, not practicing, feeling guilty for the practice they could be doing right now with the millions of other learners around them.
And the truth is, non-native practice is not second best. For most of your fluency journey, it is actually the most aligned with how you'll use English in real life, with other non-natives, with diverse accents, with flexible global English, with real-world communication patterns.
And the benefits of non-native practice are real and specific. Lower anxiety, real-world communication training, communication stamina, None of those benefits come fully from native-only practice. So even if you have access to native speakers, you should still have non-native partners as the core of your practice routine.
Stop waiting for the perfect native speaker. Start practicing with the imperfect, available, eager learners who are right there waiting to practice with you. They are the practice you've been missing.
Small challenge before we go. In the next 7 days, find one non-native practice partner, just one. Use an app like Tandem or HelloTalk, join a conversation group on Discord, ask a coworker or friend who's also learning. However you do it, find one person who's willing to talk to you in English for 30 minutes twice next week.
And then come back and drop a comment. Tell us how it went. Tell us where you found them. Tell us if your speech felt different. We want to hear the stories.
Because the moment you start practicing with non-natives consistently, your fluency journey shifts. Practice is no longer rare. It is no longer expensive. It is something you build into your weekly life. And from that moment, real fluency starts to grow.
I'm Mark.
I'm Sophie. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing to let go of a myth that has held back so many learners for so long.
Find your partner, build your practice. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.